Hey, welcome to BGN Podcast Live, Black Girl Nerds Podcast. My name is Jamie. Yeah. I'm your host, and we've got Ryan here, also your host.
We're back. It's Friday Junior.
It's Friday Junior. Yes, indeed. Thank you guys so much for tuning into our show, our live show. As you guys know, you can talk back to us on this show. So if you are streaming if you are streaming live via Facebook and YouTube, then you can talk back. If you're watching us via Twitter, not so much. So, sorry. Gotta cut out on that.
Kind of just got to watch.
Kind of just got to watch and, hang out a little bit, linger or whatever. But guess what? If you're on YouTube, guess what else you can do?
Hey, it's back above my head. Subscribe.
Hey. Subscribe, hit the notification button, and that way you will be alerted as to when these episodes drop. So please do that. Also helps us in the algorithm, whatever that means. I have no idea. It's a fancy word that they use, and I just don't even believe in that whole algorithm thing. But anyway.
Gotta have those algorithms.
We have a special guest, which we do. Excited to. I love when we have shows with guests. Because we learn a lot of information. You guys learn a lot. And you guys also, by the way, can ask questions of our guests in this episode. So if you want to know all things related to health and wellness and entrepreneurship, because she, is a multi-hyphenate. She does many, many things. Jessamyn Stanley is with us tonight, our guest, and she's going to talk to us about all things related to the world that she's involved with respect to her book, where she talks about yoga and again, health and wellness. She's got a podcast. She owns her own business. I mean, she's doing it there. She's doing it all.
Oh yeah. Doing it up.
Yeah. So, get your notes ready, get ready to take copious notes so you can get your life together and, live your life golden the way Jessamyn is living her life. In the meantime, though, we've got our hot topics, which is why you guys come to this show.
Yes.
So let's dive right into it, Ryan. What are we going to talk about first? I guess this story is actually quite interesting about this guy and his brother and his brother's wife now.
Yeah. Mr. Casey Affleck himself.
Mr. Casey Affleck, who we've actually talked to. We've interviewed him.
Okay. Man, I missed that. What? All right then.
He actually said he had watched our YouTube channel when we interviewed him. I was like, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. You watching us? All right. But Casey Affleck, the reason why we're bringing him up is because he and Ben Affleck, who recently got married to J-Lo.
Little
Benifer, right? They got married for the second time. No. They didn't get married they got married for the second time, right?
Yeah, like they had to do it, like, they did like a little private ceremony, which is probably good for them because there's some weird stuff I feel like happens with celebrities try to do the whole big wedding first. So they did like a little private ceremony, got married, and they were like, okay, let's do it a second time and have certain people there. But some people didn't show up. So tell us about that, Jamie.
So weird. Well, he didn't show up for the wedding. He did not show up, which is kind of, how do you not show up for your brother's wedding? That's kind of an important moment, I think.
A little bit.
So a lot of people were kind of wondering and speculating. And the reason, it's a really weird reason. He says that he apparently fell asleep.
Okay, so I got another one I heard. So yeah, I'll tell you another one I heard.
Okay, what did you hear?
I heard, well, first of all, like TMZ had me dying because they listed how he was like out getting frozen treats with his girlfriend. I think Kaylee Cohen is how you pronounce her name. He was at like the Starbucks earlier that day, and then they were like he missed it because he had to take his son Atticus to soccer practice. Is the other thing I saw. So I'm like, which one is like, what is the story? Like, so many different stories. Yeah, it's like so many different stories floating around out here. So
I'm okay. So I have a theory. It might sound a little mean, but I think he thinks this wedding is kind of a sham. Like it's not really legitimate. And he's like, I got better things to do with my time.
Yeah.
I'm just not going. Like, do we really think this thing is going to last?
Hey, listen, celebrity weddings, boy, it could go either way. It's a toss up. So maybe Casey knows something we don't know.
Maybe he knows something we don't know. So he's just like, I might as well.
Like, I'm just gonna sit this out. I'm gonna send you love from afar, just love from afar. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's my theory. Hopefully my theory is wrong because it's a very mean-spirited theory, but. If
they have been in a relationship before, so maybe he's just trying to take it, maybe he's trying to test it out. He like, let's see what goes down, because they didn't get married before, but they were, Benifer was a thing in the past.
Benifer was a thing, and now Benifer is a thing again. So so we'll see. And again, I'm trying not to sound mean because if you guys go back to the podcast archives, I do have some comments about my interaction with J-Lo. So you got to go back and listen to find out what that situation was about. Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
So our next hot topic is going to be are you ladies enjoying She-Hulk so far? DeHulk. Of course DeHulk wants to know about that. We're talking about She-Hulk. We are definitely going to talk about She-Hulk, and
so just be ready, okay? Just in case anybody wants to put something in the comments, just be ready.
Just be ready. And to answer your question, absolutely. Absolutely. So our next hot topic is going to be about this dude. Okay. Ryan, do you want to start? Or should I?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll start because you when Jamie cues you up like that, she like, oh boy. All right, so let me.
I'm gonna try to be like nice as possible.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you the framework, and then I let Jamie get into her thing. So Wednesday, President Biden has finally announced now his plans to address the student loan debt. Now we know everybody's want to know about this. This is one of the big things. He promised as part of his campaign getting elected and everything. So he finally get around to it, right? So it's out there, this theory that, it's going to include the debt for, forgiveness of certain borrowers, extending pandemic related payment pauses, all that kind of stuff. And apparently they have already canceled $32 billion of the $1.6 trillion in outstanding federal student debt that we already have. So, take that how you want to take it. But anyway, let me give you a little bit about like what I read as far as like what the plan applies to. So applies to federal student loan borrowers. The amount canceled depends on whether you receive like a Pell Grant. Most undergraduates get this. If you have an exceptional financial need, you haven't earned a bachelor's degree or graduate or anything like that, you get a Pell Grant. So if you haven't received anything like that, they're willing to help you out. That's one of the stipulations. If you make less than $125,000 yearly, married couples or head of households who make less than $25,000, $250,000 yearly will have up to $10,000 of their federal student loans forgiven. So these are like some of the little things they're putting out now. They're like giving us little bits and pieces of what President Biden wants to have happen with the student loan debt. So yeah, I mean, everybody, student loan debt, like it's no secret, is an issue. And so that's why everybody's been waiting to see what his promises is, what his plan is going to be. A lot of that stuff was put off with the pandemic. So yeah, I just teed it up for you. I just gave you the structure, everything that's out now that they know so far what the administration wants to do. So I'm gonna let Jamie take it away now.
Okay, so I think the only thing I just want to add to it is I feel like Biden just can do a whole lot more. I think that the debt of $10,000 for a lot of students is just interest. There's students that have way more than $10,000 in loans, and I appreciate the effort. I think that this is a move that he's probably doing mostly politically because his numbers right now are not the best. It's quite abysmal, in fact. But I think that, number one, he could have signed an executive order quite a long time ago to get this done the minute that he walked into the White House and was obviously had the power to do it. But yeah, he could do a lot more with this. So good for the folks that have a very small debt of student loans to deal with, but there, a lot of these predatory loan companies have charged ridiculous interest rates to where $10,000 is just the cost of the interest on the loan for many of these schools. So, we'll see, but I would love to see him do more.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's out there. Yeah, student loan, that stuff is real. Like that debt is not going nowhere. So yeah, we're hoping to see some more, and hopefully he keeps building on that. So yep.
Yeah. And again, the question is $10K enough? I'll ask you guys. I mean, I've already said my opinion. Is $10K enough to forgive student loans? What do you guys think? Some people think that student loan forgiveness shouldn't even be done. Some people think people should be able to pay. Like, if you take out a loan, you should pay it back. So what are y'all thoughts? Karina says, but a win is a win. However, I think we should be mindful simply because when New York announced the Excelsior Scholarship to grant more financial support for New Yorkers, not everyone qualified for it. Still has so many problems that prevent people from applying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so many like stipulations, and you qualify for this, you don't qualify for that. What scholarships you get? So yeah, this one is a dangerous one. They're like slowly stepping into like, okay, well, what can we do without like, breaking too many rules? And like Karina's bringing up, there's all kind of scholarships you can win, or stuff that's like certain things that keep you from getting certain scholarships. So yeah, they're stepping in it with this one, and I'm just hoping, like Jamie said, let's keep our fingers crossed. They're gonna keep digging. They're gonna actually work out, more than this, because yeah, that's one of those debts that just does not go away, and you can rack up like all kind of financial issues with it. Yeah, right. Yeah, me too. Like raising my hand. So I'm just hoping they keep it going. Now don't stop at just like 10,000. So help us get like an actual fresh out plan.
He can do a lot more. And by the way, let me just put that out there for those of you that do not know. You cannot bankrupt a student loan, and the person that made that a law is Joe Biden. So Joe Biden actually is one of the, I forgot I think he was a senator at the time, but he was one of the policymakers that made it so that you could not bankrupt a student loan. So just think about that.
I know that. I knew you couldn't bankrupt, but I did not know that. Okay. You learn something every day. I did not know that part.
Yeah. Good old Joe. Thanks. So anyway, moving right along to our next hot topic, which, I'm really looking forward to seeing this. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing this. And Ryan, I'm glad you brought this up. This is a new movie that's coming out, directed by Tyler Perry. And Tyler Perry, I guess maybe sometimes he can be controversial, but what's your take on this, Ryan? A Jasmine Blues.
Just caught my, like, this is just striking, this picture, and it just kept popping up on my I don't know if it's because they, like, I guess all the stuff tracks you. I'm watching a lot of stuff on Netflix or whatever. I guess maybe that's why it popped up too, but it just kept popping up on my Instagram, on my IG, and I was like, what is this? Like, I hadn't dived into it, but the picture just caught my attention, how striking it is. And you just want to know the story behind it. So yeah, Tyler Perry, right? You know how he goes, he writes, he's got to produce it, he's got to direct it. It's going to be at the Toronto Film Festival. Is where it's going to premiere. It's going to be on September 11th for the festival. It's going to be on Netflix September 23rd. But yeah, it's about this forbidden love story, and I love a good drama, a good love story, romance story. It's got a lot of, like, it looks like it might have a little bit of racial undertones there going on. You're talking about, like, it's got like that soundtrack, the juke joints, the blues in the South. So yes, it's got that, like, real cool vibe to it, and it just looks like it's gonna be drama filled. It's gonna have you on the edge of your seat, and I'm a softie. I love a good romance story. Like, even if it's got you crying at the end, like, I want to see it. So this looks like it's gonna pull you in.
Right. I'm gonna read this comment and then get back to Jasmine's Blues. Karina says people who got loans from private lenders don't qualify for this forgiveness program, so that's a problem. And then 10K isn't enough because you have people with 80K in loans. How can you pay that off when earnings haven't increased? Talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of issues they're going to be dealing with. So yeah, we'll see how this continues to unfold. We'll keep you posted. So we'll see how it goes.
Exactly. Yes. I'm here for a Jasmine's Blues. Tyler Perry. I used to be critical of Tyler Perry back in the day, and you can see old tweets from my account about that. But I have definitely switched as far as his craft, and not necessarily his craft, but just the fact that he created this studio in Atlanta, and then he's really created opportunities for a lot of Black folks in the industry.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I know that there was some recent controversy about him being very much of a micromanager with the different shows that he's on. And all the scripts and stuff like that. But that aside, I'm really excited about this film. I think that Tyler Perry is really wanting to get very serious. It looks like he wants to do a tonal shift with his direction. Obviously, the Medea films is his cash cow. I don't think he's going to stop making those movies. I really don't. But I think he wants to put his hat in the ring for awards consideration. And looking at that trailer, it looks good. If it will be considered for an awards film, I don't know. I mean, there's not any notable name actors in the movie, but that's not to say that it won't, because he himself is a notable director. And
Absolutely, yeah.
If he politics, around Hollywood to the right folks, and plus it's a Netflix film, and they're very good with campaigning, it might have a chance. But I'm here for it, and the cinematography looks great. And looking at the trailer, it looks like it's got some pretty strong performances, and the story looks really good. So I'm excited. I will be at TIFF. I will be at the Toronto Film Festival, and it is on my list of films to watch. So I can't wait for Jasmine's Blues for sure.
Yep, I can't wait to see what you think when you see it. So yeah, it definitely does feel like a switch up for him, which is much needed, because we already know the certain genres he can do. So I think this is really going to show off his skills and talents with this one. So this should be interesting.
Yep. Karina says that makes sense because he's been showing he wants to switch up genres. Yeah. Indeed. All right. So our next news piece is going to be about where we're going to go to. I guess we'll go here.
I love you picked this picture. That's great.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan. What's going on with Shazam and I think another movie under the Warner Brothers?
Aquaman, the second Aquaman 2, like they're switching it up. We're in just that thing of, like, either you're canceling something or you're switching it up. So we just kind of get used to it now. So it kind of just feels familiar that they're going to change it up. So DC basically is saying, so Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is moving from March 17th, 2023 to December 25th, 2023. And so then they're going to move Shazam, Fury of the Gods, to March 17th. So basically they just reversed them. And then, but the whole thing here was Shazam was supposed to go up against James Cameron's Avatar, which, it's James Cameron's Avatar. maybe this is giving Shazam that room. I'm not hating on Shazam because I did love Shazam, but I'm just like, maybe this gives it a chance to kind of have like that March release date on its own, to kind of carve out that opening weekend. And the Batman, it released on March, so it could be good for Shazam.
Okay, so that's the reason why they don't want to compete with Avatar. Is that the reason?
That's what I'm thinking. That's not what they're directly saying, but that's just what I'm drawing to, because that would have been like the date that they had Shazam set would have came out around Avatar. Like it would have been both of those competing at that box office. Okay. So that's what I'm thinking. But I don't know. Move. Yeah, I don't know for sure if that's what they want to go with, but that's what that's like put me two together.
Financial thing, and they were just
I was worried too when I read it. I was like, oh god, don't do it to us. But yeah, they're still coming out. We're still good. They're just changing up dates, so we'll see how this goes. Hopefully we'll see if they start switching some other stuff around, but that's what we got so far. So yeah.
Oh my god, this guy, man, DC looks like they're on a sinking ship, and I'm wondering when Disney's going to swoop in and buy them. No, we don't want that, because then it's a monopoly.
Yeah, they would have all the content. They'd be ready then. They would have all the stuff.
Absolutely not. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a good move. That's a good move, because Avatar is going to be huge.
I think so. Yeah,
huge. So yeah, they have to do that. Okay, so then let's go ahead and move on to this piece of news. This was interesting. What's going on with House of the Dragon?
Yeah, so you guys know right, Dragons, y'all better be checking out Dragons, y'all, by the way. Like I'm gonna try to find as many like House of the Dragon things I can put in our live, just to make sure you guys are going to check out Dragons, y'all, because we're having so much fun bringing you guys recaps of this all season. Like this is like, I think it was like 10 million people for the premiere, so everybody is in it. They're checking this out. Crazy. But go ahead, Jamie.
Oh no, I mean, just that's wild. That 10 million people. That is just
insane. And probably because of this guy Damon, probably too, in this picture too, because this dude, he is
that swag, man.
Yeah, like the swag on this guy, boy, and just doesn't care. See, that's how you sit on a bunch of knives right there, y'all. That's how you sit on the throne.
I mean, Matt Smith had that kind of swagger. You know what I'm saying? Like the
but yeah, so anyway, so basically I did a little deep dive here. I went down a rabbit hole and I found out like the real life House of the Dragon locations. So if you're trying to plan a trip real quick, I don't know how much it's going to cost you. I didn't do all like the airplane tickets and everything. But if you go into like England, Spain, Portugal, you might get a hookup and kind of get some of these locations down for those really hardcore fans. So in England, they have a place called the Cornwall. This is Westeros. St. Michael's Mount is also there, which is Driftmark, and that is the ancestral seat of House of Valerian. If you guys are follow along with the show, so there you go. You can go to England to see that. You can go to Spain, and I know I'm going to butcher this. I think it is Caceres is Caceres, and Chorillo is this is King's Landing, and we first see this in GOT in season 7. So they kind of brought that setting back from GOT. So yeah, if you guys are in Spain, want to see that. And then Portugal, it's called Monsanto, and it has a lot of like medieval castles, cobbled streets. The homes are built on like these massive granite boulders and stuff. So it kind of, sets the scene a lot for a lot of the stuff you see in House of the Dragons. So yeah, I just kind of want to give you guys some cool locations there. If you're really hardcore fan and want to go out and kind of search out these places, it's kind of cool to know that they have like these real location sort of sets, as opposed to like, everything green screen. I wish I could tell you there was like real life dragons there that you go check out, but we know how that goes down, but so, right. But yeah, if you want to out, like I said, I don't know about the plane ticket cost though. So I can't help you with that. So I don't know how much that is, but
yeah. That plane ticket cost might be some change.
But I know the big like tourist companies and stuff are like super excited that this is out there. So because people are gonna go like hard, like, oh, I gotta go to this location that I seen Damon at, or I gotta go like where we think Daenerys was over here. So it's gonna be interesting to see if like tourism picks up in these areas because people are such hardcore fans.
Cool. Well, I'm just going to do a shameless plug because, that's how I am. Make sure to follow Dragons Y'all hashtag on Twitter and live tweet with us on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when we watch House of the Dragon. And then shortly thereafter, tune into our podcast, the Dragons Y'all podcast recap show. So I just want to let y'all know about that.
Dragon's Jaw, in case you did miss it. Dragon's Jaw, write that down. Okay.
Dragon's Jaw, yeah. Oh, and also you can check out the recap on blackgirlnerds.com. Okay, done with that promo. Real quick, before we get our guest on, let's talk really quick about She-Hulk. You know, the Hulk brought it up. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about it. Man, this show is so good that I'm just mad that they only show one episode a week. I just like,
yeah, and this one was 30. This one was 30 minutes, you guys. It's not enough. It's so good. It was 30 minutes. I was like, no,
mad. I'm like, by the way, those ending credits are fire.
Yes. So fire.
I love it. So yeah, I mean, we can talk a little bit about it, but you know, spoiler free. What did you think about? Okay, the guy, the new boss of the law firm that Jen was hired to, he's sus to me. So
he's the G. It's like GLK and H. Yeah, some sus stuff going on there. There's some sus stuff going on there, you guys.
Yeah, I forgot his name.
I forgot his name because I was just paying attention to how suspect he looked when he walked in, you know, to talk to her about this. So he's definitely suspect. Something's going on.
Yeah, because I'm like, okay, first you only want to hire her because because of the fact that she's a super, human or whatever. Because I think she's referred to as a superhuman. Yeah, and then so he's suspect, and then I really like Tim Roth. We see Tim Roth in this.
The
Abominator.
I'm trying to scroll down to my notes real quick. Yeah.
we didn't prep to talk about She-Hulk, but I just wanted to talk about She-Hulk for like a second. But anyways, Tim Roth is absolutely amazing in this role.
Abomination. So close enough.
Abomination.
Yeah. Emil Blonsky, is his other name when he's not tearing things up.
I've loved Tim Roth since Reservoir Dogs, so he's great. But he was fantastic in this role.
Yeah.
And gosh, I'm like, okay.
If you want to apologize to somebody, write a haiku. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, I won't spoil anything else, but if you need to apologize to somebody, just write them a haiku.
And then he started reading the haikus, and then she was just like, okay, you could stop. And you know, for me, like, slapstick comedy usually doesn't make me laugh. Like, I don't laugh. It's always corny to me. But this slapstick comedy and She-Hulk always makes me laugh out loud. Like when Jen walks into doors, the scene where she, falls off the chair and the table because her metabolism went back.
And you can tell she's just like hecka drunk. It's like, no, girl, stay in the She-Hulk where she just like was popping, just throwing those drinks back. And it just like all hit her at once. Yeah.
Funny. It was so funny. So
yeah, she's doing this show is fantastic. Like, I did not expect this. I thought it was gonna have like some corny moments because like it's comedy and you're like, oh god, they're gonna do, but it's comedy gold. So yeah, we need more than 30 minutes.
If you haven't seen She-Hulk yet, get your life together. Just
and stay through the credits. Stay through the credits. You know it's Marvel, so you know how you got to do.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Because there's like an end credit scene after every episode. So yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, our guest is here, and I'm really excited to chat with her. So before I bring her on, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick introduction. All right. So we have Jessamyn Stanley. She is an award-winning, internationally acclaimed voice in wellness, highly sought after for her insights on the 21st century yoga and intersectional identity. She is well versed on a variety of cultural issues, including the modern Black experience, LGBTQIA+ representation, and equity in the health industry. As a successful yoga instructor and entrepreneur, Jessamyn is the founder of The Underbelly, a streaming wellness app with digital yoga classes available by web, iOS, Android, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Wow. Jessamyn launched The Underbelly to help individuals tune in with themselves and live authentically. The flourishing platform is a home for wellness enthusiasts and the wellness curious who may feel displaced, discouraged, or overlooked due to not seeing themselves reflected in the health and fitness community. The brand is also known for its inclusive approach towards physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Welcome, Jessamyn Stanley, to the show, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank y'all so much for having me. Oh my goodness. I was also getting my life to the She-Hulk conversation, which I'm not up to date on Marvel TV shows or anything. So I was like taking notes. Okay, her She-Hulk. It's outside my nerddom. Yes.
I mean, well, you're definitely not busy like at all. So I would expect you to watch like all of these TV shows. I'm just telling you.
No, I'm kind of pissed about it, honestly, because like I used to be on my streaming game. You know what I mean? Like I used to be able to catch things, and now I'm just like, what show? I forgot. Damn.
But you know what? There's so many shows out there. It's hard to keep up. Like I have like group of colleagues who are all critics, and we can't even keep up on the shows, and that's like our job. So don't feel bad.
I love it for our world, though. We're in the golden age of so many different art forms, and like it always comes with catastrophe. So with social collapse comes all the art. So like I'm here for it ultimately, but I hope that before the apocalypse fully sets in, that I get to some good like just streaming time. You know what I mean? Like just
yep.
Anyway.
Well, Jessamyn, thank you so much for coming on the show. I am so impressed by your resume and the work that you do. I don't even know, how do you sleep? Like, how do you
my goodness. I'm like, literally, I'm having one of those weeks where I'm just like, what is up and what is down? And frankly, at this point, I just feel like sacred calling, ancestral legacy, go, just do it. Like, don't worry about it. Just figure it out. And that the sleep is such a big part of it, though. I'm glad that you said that, because I'm like, my God, rest is all we have at this point, just to be able to take some. But yeah, I mean, it's an incredible time to be in community with people. And I feel really grateful to be involved in the movements that I'm involved with, and to be working with the people that I'm working with. And that all feels really good to me. So thanks for showing that love.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of my first questions for you, and I imagine you'll need a lot of sleep after dealing with this experience, was when Donald Trump Jr. came after you about your parents, which I can only imagine can be an emotionally draining experience and just have a lot on your psyche. So what did you do to recover from that experience?
You know, one of the things that I'm really grateful for is the experience that I had being trolled in middle school, because during that time, I really learned like that anytime that someone is bullying you, they feel really sad themselves. And by the time Donald Trump Jr. came along with something to say, it's so many other people had come before him that I was kind of like, do you really I was honestly, if you want my like legit first reaction, was like, wow, yeah, thanks for the free PR. That was great. I appreciate you.
That's the thing with haters, though, right? It's like, okay, free advertising.
I was like, anytime a white man comes for me like that, I'm like, okay, cool. So you love it, first of all. That's all I can really see is you love it. And also, I'm like, I mean, honestly, the whole reason to do the work is to provoke. So I'm like, I feel you, like have a strong reaction. I feel like then the onus is on me to not take it personally. And that is the part that I find to be impossible, to not take it personally. So I think my reaction always is just to be to myself, log off, take a bath, go outside, do not be around people as much as possible. Isolate, but also find loved ones. And that has been one of the, I'm curious, y'all, like in your, like, when you nerd, do you nerd in collective, or are you a lone wolf nerd? Because like I tend to be like lone wolf, like find my own space. But recently I've really been learning about the importance of community and healing in collective and like reaching out to people. And so that has definitely been a part of my healing too.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, to answer your question, it's both for me. I mean, I nerd out by myself and do the whole bookworm thing, or do the Netflix and, you know, chill by Jamie Self thing. But then also having a community, you know, and, you know, being with friends, or, you know, online live tweeting House of the Dragon, you know, so I think both can be, you know, done So what about you, Ryan? What works for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Same here, because I do it by myself. Like if I'm really stressed and I can just plow through all the Marvel stuff, takes my mind away from whatever's stressing me out. So I can nerd out that way by myself. And then, but like this is great. Like, you get a chance to, talk about what you're interested in, what you got coming up next, podcast, and let you just get all of it out. As you know, like just vent and get all of it out. So, I think it's a mixture of both of, being able to nerd out like by yourself and together. So
totally.
all the beautiful Black girl magic.
Totally. Same. All the things.
But just to piggyback off that, though, that you brought that up, like when did you realize that health and like self-love kind of became your focus? Like when did you start? Did you have like the yoga, the books? Like when did you? Because that is such a hard thing to do, to say, okay, I need to focus on myself. My health is important. This is what I need to look at.
It's hard only until catastrophe strikes, and then it gets real easy, because then it's like there's no other option. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. And I feel like anyone who's really into yoga, it's because something happened to them where they had to like ground down and use it as medicine. And what happened to me was I was in graduate school, and I was going through a period of depression, and I'm prone to depression, so it's one of many waves. But I was going through it, and one of my friends was like, "Oh my God, you should go to yoga. You'll love it." And I was like, I will not do that. I really thought it was just for thin white women. And I had actually tried it once when I was in high school, and I was like, this is the worst. I'm not doing this. And then, but what ended up happening was that when I went, yes, it was deeply alienating. Like I was one of the only Black people. I don't recall seeing any other fat people there, but I also saw how much I tell myself no. Like in the class, I would be like, I can't do that. I can't do that. And then I noticed that I was doing that in every other part of my life too. And that was really the source of so much unhappiness for me, was not allowing myself to just go for it, regardless of whether or not I know that I can succeed. And so that really ultimately is why I still practice yoga, because it's just this medicine that allows me to just even have the question of, what am I capable of? Who am I when I stopped predetermining my entire existence? But I never thought about being a yoga teacher. I never thought about, it was not a focus for me. I was on a whole other life path. But I was sharing my yoga practice on social media. And in that, I had people asking me to come teach them all over the world. And I would just be like, you literally do not need me to come teach you yoga. There are thousands of yoga teachers. You don't need this. I would recommend teachers. But then eventually I was like, okay, I'll go to training, but I still don't know that I'm going to do this with my life. But in a lot of ways, I think of myself as before training and after training, because during that time, I really learned why all of us are always teaching some form of yoga. We're teaching the yoga of our life. Yoga being just the balance, finding the trembles in between the intersections of your life. Right. And the way that I do that, the way that I practice compassion, that might not resonate for everybody, but it might resonate for even one person. And if it resonates for one person and then they practice compassion and then another person practice compassion, that's how we can start to live in a world where we move from a place of compassion and love and not fear. And right now we move from a place of fear. So I share my yoga practice, and I share, and it takes a lot of different forms. So I write books because not everybody wants to go to a yoga class. I have yoga classes online and in person. I do a podcast, which is really about the yoga of everyday life. All of that is still the same message of just I'm going to live my practice as honestly and authentically as I can. And if that makes space for other people to do the same thing, then that's great too.
Yeah. That is beautiful. That is so awesome. I mean, I remember walking into a yoga class and just feeling for the first time and kind of feeling it was a very daunting experience. And my question for you is, and my experience was almost a decade ago. So it was a while ago. So today, is there still a stigma to Black people in yoga? Because you mentioned you thought it was just a bunch of white women. Mm-hmm. Is there still that stigma with Black people and yoga? Is it a white woman's thing, or is it now more diverse and inclusive? And there's, like you mentioned, community. Is there more communities of Black women and women of color that's engaged in this fitness community?
You know what's interesting is that, well, first of all,
I feel like no matter how much progress we make, there's always progress to be made. So I'm like, while there has been a lot of shift on the surface in the last few years, especially because of social media, we're seeing, I think, just more people practicing, more people showing their lives in general, not even just in the yoga world. I do think that there's been a shift in visibility, certainly from 10 years ago. But I also think that Black women have been practicing yoga for a long time, like for a long time. And I think that we just have never been properly represented in the mainstream. And I think that like we're finally coming to a place where the mainstream narrative is like even open to discussing that sort of, but I still feel like it's like siloed and gentrified and whitewashed and like not really a deeper conversation. So I am very heartened by the shift in tone, especially over the last 5 years. And frankly, COVID and quarantine had a lot to do with that, because I think that just more people needing to speak about wellness openly has created a big shift. But I mean, I don't know. I'm a realist. I'm not really so much for just full on optimism. And I think we have a lot of work to do still.
Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite go-to pose? Because anything with balance just throws me off. Like I failed like 5 times. I was like, this is just unnecessary. Me be doing this, and then I had the nerve to do it on the beach, so I really lost my mind.
The beach is low-key amazing because it offers so many different like textures, the sand, the wind, the ocean waves. Like I love that. Yes, I do have a lot of postures that I love, but honestly, the postures that I really love are the postures that I hate. And if you'll walk with me down this road, I feel like anything that challenges me and pushes me to a place where I'm just like, I hate everything about this, that always ends up being the thing that I love. It's like you have to get to a place of like it just beats you and it beats you, and then you're like, oh, actually I love you. Okay, I get it. And so that for me is like a dolphin plank pose, like being in plank pose but on your forearms. Really any variation on that. But as far as balance postures are concerned, I love a tree pose right now, and it feels like very important to be able to feel that kind of rooting from the earth and remembering that we are all made of natural materials and that we return to nature. And that yoga is really good for that too, to remember that we are wild beasts, that we're creatures, we're not robots. And so being able to connect with that primal energy feels like really important to me at this point. I'm so curious about y'all's other yoga experiences though, like the good, the bad, and the ugly of them.
I mean, for me, like my experience was going in there and feeling, number one, there was a whole bunch of skinny women, and it was like your experience. They were all white. I was the only Black woman there, plus size on top of that, could barely bend down.
Totally. Literally.
And just feeling, I just didn't feel, I felt less than, because I was not able to execute the kind of poses that everybody else in the class was doing. And I stayed I think I was given like a free pass for like 6 weeks or something like that. So I stayed during the 6 weeks because I did it for myself. Like I wasn't trying to impress anybody or whatever, but still, your ego gets the best of you when you see other people that's just walking in there with their yoga mats and they're doing their thing. And you're like, okay, I want to know how to do that.
I relate to that so deeply. What were you about to say, Brian? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. I did that one class and it was hard. Like the sand was slipping and stuff. And I was like, I wanted to do it more because I want to try to like get into it more. But I just had to quiet myself. I didn't realize how like loud my mind, if that makes sense, just to get myself to just like focus. And everybody was like, and she was like, well, did you have your namaste in your calm moment? And I'm like, oh, well, I want to look over here and I want to look at, it was
totally.
I was like, I can't do it. And my balance, like I didn't realize how like bad my balance was, but it will help you if you're not like me and focus and like zone out into the ocean. it will like calm you down.
Experience, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing about it, though, oh my God, I have so much to say. Okay, the thing about the like loud mind is that I'm like, that is how your brain is supposed to be. Like, if your brain is not loud, that's probably a problem, like to some degree, because we're supposed to be thinking all the time. But the thing about thinking about so many different things is that we judge ourselves for thinking about it. And so yoga is like the place where it's okay to not judge yourself for that. So that I always feel like every yoga class is an opportunity to think about everything I want to obsess over, like everything that I'm, especially like when it's some shit that I cannot get past. Right. I want to be able to just really just think about it. And then at a certain point, I'm like, wow, I'm really putting a lot of energy toward these thoughts. I could just instead put that energy toward whatever the physical movement is. And then that's where the calm comes from, but that the calm wasn't there before. So I always feel like anytime someone says that, I'm like, I feel you so deep. And like, please bring your messy, chaotic mind, all the baggage, all of it to yoga. I also cannot get over, and I feel like I want to address each of y'all's things separately. I cannot get over that your only yoga class was on a beach. That just seems so dumb to me. Like, every part of that sounds awful. I would never go back.
Yes,
like if I had
yes, it was. It was horrible decision. And even the instructor was like slip because of sand.
No,
so she would have to she would have to reset herself, and she was like, well, if you can get a good spot where you can. So that was totally a bad decision. That's why I need to go back, because that was not a good way for you to do this. So people take notes. That was not a good way to start. Have your first yoga class.
No, it was perfect.
I do have a very bad yoga experience to share. So I did have, when I used to live in New York, I went and did hot yoga. Never again.
Totally.
Never again. Yeah. And I didn't realize those things get so funky. I was like,
yes. Okay. So my first yoga class and my first yoga obsession is hot yoga, a style of hot yoga called Bikram. And I literally, like, the first time I did it, I was like, this is the worst thing that has ever happened to human beings. I had no idea it could smell that bad. I had no idea that human beings could sweat that much. And from the different places that you sweat, like, why are you sweating in your eyebrows? Not your forehead, but in your eyebrows. Like, it's so dumb. But the thing about, so hot yoga, I feel like, is doing that thing that I was talking about before, where it's like, just like bring all your baggage, bring all your things to think about. And then like hot yoga is turning the heat up on that, literally, where it's like, cool. So it's about to be hot in a way that you cannot think anymore. Yeah. And that's the point, is to stop thinking. It's like, just like bring all your thoughts and we're going to clear them out, because now we're just going to be here doing this. And I feel like that ego experience that you were talking about before, Jamie, of like feeling like, really, I want to be able to be like everybody. Like, I want to be able to do what everybody else is doing. Like, if I want to, and I used to always get caught up on my outfits and stuff. I'd be like, well, everybody else like has the right clothes and I don't have the right clothes. And like, I just feel like all of those emotions are the yoga. Like, the whole reason to go was to feel that self-criticism and to be like, damn, now where am I now that I've experienced that? But like, because it's so easy to ignore the ways that we judge and critique ourselves in the other parts of our lives. But in that kind of environment, you just have to look at it. And so that I'm like, literally any practice of yoga is perfect. Like, I feel like if you go to class, I taught a live class this morning, and I was like, if you don't practice any of these postures, that's fine. Literally, like, you could come to class and practice corpse pose, lying on your back. And that might be your whole practice. And that posture is actually high key hard as fuck. And so I'm like, to lay there and not do anything is like the opposite of what we want to do as humans. Yeah. So that if that's what your body is called to do that. Don't worry so much about it. I love that I get to like really nerd about yoga. This is my biggest. I feel like there was a question before of like what do you nerd about? And I'm like,
yoga. Yeah. Well, this is great, because I mean, I really do want to get back into yoga, because I mean, I tried it, and when I did try it, I did enjoy it. I just felt really intimidated because of the people that were around me. And maybe it's about maybe I should just do it by myself and then, do that too. But one of the questions I did want to ask you is like, right now at this stage of my life as a woman of a certain age, I'm feeling a lot of low energy and not even feeling motivated to even doing like basic aerobics or even taking like a walk outside, which is things I need to do to just make sure I'm healthy every day. So what advice do you have for people that just don't feel motivated to just even get up out of bed some days? Because truth be told, that is me.
Totally. Literally, I feel that completely. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be like, this is what you do and it works every time. Because I'm like, remember when I said I was prone to depression before? So like, take this all with a grain of salt. But I do feel like it's helpful for me to just start with one thing and to make that one thing be enough, so that it's not like, I'm not like, it sucks if you're like, I have to practice yoga for an hour today or else I didn't practice yoga. Because then it's gonna be real quick. It's gonna be really easy to not practice yoga anymore because you're like, well, I can't maintain the schedule. So that if you say like, just this one posture is going to be enough. And actually, even beyond that, just rolling out the mat, that's enough. Like, you roll out the mat. And then once you've rolled out the mat, especially if it's like inconveniently located where you have to walk over it or like it's interrupting your day somehow, then it's like, well, I could just get on the mat. Okay, I'm just going to get on the mat. And then that's enough. It doesn't need to be more than that. And then you say, there's just going to be one posture that I'm going to do today. And that posture might be, I think corpse pose is a great one, but maybe it's child's pose. Maybe it's mountain pose, something where you like are here and you're taking up space and you can feel all the different parts of your body. And then once you practice that one posture, and like you've practiced yoga for the day at this point, like you've already done it. But once you do that one, then you're like, I mean, I could do another one. What's another posture that I know? Okay, maybe it's like, if you're in mountain pose, then maybe it becomes like standing crescent and you inhale your arms up. And now you've done 2 yoga poses. And this is crazy. You're really like it's getting wild. And then from there, it can just roll over on top of itself. And like your practice, you'll do a full practice from that point. But I think that I don't know how this sounds, but setting the bar low, making expectations reasonable and something that is attainable is really helpful. And I would say the same thing about like any kind of movement though, because taking a walk, what you were saying about that, I was just like, I feel you so deep. And it is so easy to not take a walk. It's so easy to like not. And like, even just saying like, I'm gonna walk to the mailbox or I'm gonna walk to the tree up the street or whatever. And then I'm gonna turn right back around and that is the whole thing. Just setting that as a baseline, and then you can celebrate that. And you're like, shit, look what I did. This is amazing. And then you're like, I mean, I could walk a little bit further, or maybe I want to walk a little bit further. Yeah. And it can arrive from a place of desire as opposed to a place of obligation. And the obligation just never feels good. Nobody wants it. And like, it's not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to take that first step, but if you just do something, it does make you feel a lot better. You're like, at the first time, you're like, oh my gosh, I just had to step out the house and do this. But like once you're out there doing it, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I could do this, one of the other days down the week or something.
Literally. I also think it's helpful to schedule things. And this does not work for everybody because sometimes you schedule something and then you look at it on your calendar and you're like, yeah, I still won't do that. I feel fine about that. I'm not doing that. But I feel like if it's scheduled in the same way that you would schedule anything else, then it becomes like, okay, it makes it feel more attainable. I feel like anything that makes it more attainable.
Right. Do you feel like meditation and yoga kind of go hand in hand? Like, do you feel like you should also be meditating when you're also practicing yoga?
Totally. I think that meditation is the result of yoga postures. Like, I think that, and then if we take that a step further and say that every way that you could move your body in life is a yoga posture, then every moment in life is an opportunity for meditation. So that to me, yoga and meditation go together seamlessly. That the whole reason to practice a bunch of yoga postures, to invite the breath into your body, to really connect your mind, your body, and your spirit, all of that is to calm down enough in order to meditate and to be present. But meditation, I feel like it is over. I think it's very simple. And so it gets like oversimplified in the mainstream, but it's actually like very hard. And so I think that we like judge ourselves for not doing a good job at it, or it's like it took me a long time to develop a meditation practice. And even in the meditation practice that I have now, it's still like it fluctuates and it changes. But I do think that it's the natural result of practicing postures for sure. Yeah.
I gotta get better about that. I tried. I failed miserably. My mind is too loud. There's so many voice. I mean, when I say I shouldn't say there's so many voices in my head, because now I sound like got some issues. But no, like it's just there's just my mind is saying, oh, I gotta check this email, or I forgot to do this, and like there's always something going on in my mind when I try to meditate, and I just can't keep it quiet. I can't keep it quiet.
That is so on the topic of things that are said often. This is one of those things of like I just can't meditate. My mind is moving so fast, and I feel that, and I feel like if your mind is moving fast, that's the perfect place to start meditating. And I really feel like it is the place to obsess over everything. Because what happens is that you can't obsess forever. So like you say, and like I am Virgo rising, I will try to obsess forever. I'm so curious about y'all's astrology. Maybe we can come back to that. But literally, I will obsess forever. And like when I sit to meditate, it's like cataclysm, just like everything colliding together, and all sorts of thoughts, random things that I have not thought about in years will come up. And what ends up happening,
I was thinking about this. Yeah.
Literally, it'll be like, how is that even coming up? And it's like, it's coming up because it needs to come up, because it needs to be resolved. And you just think about it now. And what ends up happening though, is that the thoughts eventually do pass through like clouds across a blue sky. Like there's a cloud there, and you see it, and oh, look at that cloud. That's amazing. Okay, yeah, well, it's exiting, and then it's gone, and then you move on. But like that process in pictures looks so chill. Meditating looks so chill. It looks like divine, heavenly, but in practice, I experience it as very chaotic, very difficult, unpleasant, just straight up like sucks. And but it also just, there's no calm like accepting that there's no calm, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because I get like 2 minutes. It's like, nope, gotta move.
Right, exactly. And then move. You know what I mean? So then move.
Yeah. Oh, but see, if they haven't already taken enough notes though of like all the advice you're giving right now, you got to talk about your podcast right now, because season 4 is coming back September 4th, right?
Yes. So we have been. Man, Dear Jessamyn is a show about relationships, and it's about the yoga of everyday life. And my partner and I have been doing this show for the last 3 seasons, and it has been an incredible study for us on what it means to be polyamorous, but also what it means to see your partners as your teachers, and to be able to let them reflect you to you, and to try to accept them as well. And we have been through many waves and ups and downs, and there's big surprises coming in this next season. So that is something to look forward to for sure.
Yeah, one of the things I think is interesting, like just podcasts, like how open you can be. And listen to some of the episodes you guys are talking about relationships. People are sending their letters, and I'm like, man, it goes to whole other level. It's just talking about like what we see now, like a new generation of like what relationships are, and what love means to you and how you make it work. So yeah, definitely cool.
What's interesting to me about polyamory though is that first of all, so I'm polyamorous. The show is about that, but the first season we literally called Polyamory Is Not for Everybody, because it is literally not for everybody, and I would not recommend it just like outhand. I'm not like everybody should be poly. It's a lot, but I do feel like there's a low-key polyamorous aspect to a lot of relationships. Like even if you're in a monogamous relationship, if there's a friend that you have that is like, you are down for that person and they're down for you, and they're like a part of you and your partner's relationship in a lot of ways. For some people, this is maybe a partner. It could be a child. Like there's always a supporting of one another that's happening in partnerships, even in monogamous partnerships. And I think that polyamory just asks for radical honesty in that experience of different people holding up different parts of your life. And I think that monogamy tends to veer toward dishonesty and saying that, like, no, I don't have feelings for that person, or no, I'm not going to do this thing or the other thing. And I think that we're coming to a place, though, and I think this has a lot to do with just the general timbre of our world right now, where everyone is willing to experiment with new things and to try out new things. And so we are seeing a lot more fluidity in relationship models, and that even I feel very like prudish by comparison to some, like sometimes the kids tell me things about their polyamorous relationships. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's what it is. I know about all that. Okay, cool. You know, but like I love that too. So we're all learning together.
Yeah, you got it. It gets real. So y'all better check this out. But yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, just acceptance, you know, and everybody being able to share their story, you know. And I'm a strong believer in you just love who you love, and people need to stop always trying to give their opinions and put you into a box. So it's real cool that you're like sharing your truth, and everybody gets to kind of give their advice. You know, I'm like, can I really give advice on this story right now? But it's entertaining. It's helpful to say the least. Just somebody to talk to, and they can voice their opinion. So that's cool.
Totally. Yeah, I think that even just knowing that there's another person out there who feels you and is not judging you, like that can make all the difference. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, my last question to you is, you have a pretty big social media presence, and I'm always curious to know how did you build your social media presence online?
You know, I didn't really try to build it, if I can be honest with you. And I think that has a lot to do with how I built it. That it was really just like, it's all been like, what feels organic, what feels real, what feels necessary, what do I have to say? And if I'm sharing my yoga practice, what feels necessary? Like if I'm gonna say that I'm a yoga teacher, then I need to really talk about the yoga of every part of my life, not no bullshit. Like it needs to be like, even the things that are going to alienate people, even things that are going to be like hard to receive, especially accepting myself as a fat person, as a Black person, as a Black woman, as a queer person, like really to sit in all of that means that like my content has to follow suit. And so I've had a lot of moments over the years of being like, do I want to keep being on social media? Like, I remember when I first started, like, really focusing my teaching practice, I had a better understanding of why a lot of yoga people are anti-social media. And it has a lot to do with the fact that social media really asks us to look outside of ourselves for approval. And yoga is all about looking within yourself for approval. So they're like fundamentally at odds with one another. But at the exact same time, there's so much opportunity for collective growth just by sharing your authenticity. So to me, that feels like an opportunity for us as a society to be more at ease with one another just by me sharing my practice. And that has guided all of my choices. And I think that if I was more focused on like followership and engagement, then I think I would have a different approach to building things. And I think that all of my answers would be really different. But because of that, I'm like, go where the content goes, go where the truth goes. And then that's everything else will follow.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Well, speaking of follow, where can our followers follow you? And, as far as your journey, obviously Ryan shouted out your podcast. Where can we learn more about, what you're doing? You also have a book that's out. Where can they find that? And anything else that you want to share before we wrap this up?
You can find me on Instagram at my name is Jessamyn, and you can find my yoga studio at the Underbelly Yoga. And you can find all the links to literally everything that I do, including my books, Everybody Yoga, and my most recent book, Yoke, My Yoga of Self-Acceptance. You can get all the links for that at JessamineStanley.com. And you can also find the podcast there, which is Dear Jessamyn at Dear Jessamyn or DearJessamyn.com. And you can take yoga classes with me on the Underbelly and you can try a 2-week free trial at theunderbelly.com.
That's a fantastic name, by the way.
Life is crazy. It will just serve whatever is meant to happen. It will just serve it.
That is awesome, Jessamyn. It has been a pleasure talking to you.
Yes,
The feeling is mutual.
Therapy during this interview.
Oh my goodness, y'all are such a breath of fresh air for real, and I'm glad to be out here with you, and I appreciate you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming, and we hope to have you back.
You will. I'm looking forward to it. Have a good one. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Hey,
Awesome.
that's cool.
Very cool.
So,
yeah.
Sign up for your yoga class, not on the beach, but sign up for it.
Right. I mean, I like I've never done yoga on the beach, but I like the idea of going on the beach for yoga.
Well, if you're seasoned, probably not your first thing. I thought I was trying to probably not your first class, but
probably not right out the gate.
It'll be cool though. It'll be cool if you try to do it. So I love that. Yeah.
I'm gonna try yoga again, y'all. I'm gonna try.
Yeah, do it and let us know.
I'm gonna let y'all know. I'm gonna try it on my own and just go. Yeah. I'm gonna look at Jessamyn's, read her book.
I like that, like virtual, digital. Like that's interesting. I like how they change it up so you don't have to leave you have to leave your house. You're comfortable like in your own little space, trying out some moves. So I like that.
Exactly. Karina says hot yoga is pretty cool too. Yeah, I mean, well. I had my experience. It was not a cool experience. I mean, literally, it's not a cool experience, but it was a hot and a funky one. If I ever get into hot yoga again, I have to be like a little seasoned at doing yoga. But yeah, I do want to do like meditation though too, because the meditation stuff is really important for me right now. Because I really need to clear my head. Like I have so many negative thoughts that just go in my head every single day. And I'm like, I got to clear that stuff out. And I always hear that meditation is just really good for that, just calming and easing and all of that stuff.
Any type of outlet that takes you out of the negativity, like anything that's bringing you out of like just constantly like, oh, we got this, that's wrong, this is wrong. Yeah. Like just anything that just takes you out of like just yourself for just a minute, like 5 minutes, do something.
Exactly. Getting out of my own head. Yes. Yeah. That's what meditation does. And that's what yoga helps kind of facilitate that as well. So, all right.
So we're going to get your meditation on, your yoga classes on.
Yep. I hope you guys learned a lot from Jessamyn and I hope that you guys got a lot out of this podcast. We're excited to talk with you guys next week. We will bring you another great show. Yes, we'll be here next week, right?
Yes. Listen, I check in with Jamie because Jamie stays with the freaking Flyer Mile, so you got to check in with her. So we'll keep you posted.
We'll be here next week. Yeah, next week is the first, so we'll be here next week.
You good? Okay, we're good. We're here.
I'll be in, like I said, I'll be in Toronto in September, so just beware, you guys. There will not be a show during the week of TIFF, but there will be a show next week. So just FYI.
Nice. All right, we're in the building. We're in the building, people.
We're in the building, and I don't think we have a guest, so it'll be a completely hot topic filled podcast. By the way, before we wrap up, I forgot to bring this up. We just want to acknowledge really quick our baby girl. Today is 21 years to the day of her passing.
Oh, no,
Aaliyah Houghton. So we just want to acknowledge that, August 25th. I forgot the exact year. Oh goodness.
I think it was 2001.
2001, August 25th, 2001. Aaliyah passed away, and I wanted to ask you, Ryan, do you remember where you were when Aaliyah passed?
No, I don't. For some reason, I just remember being at home and like, you remember the whole thing, like when they were trying to do the investigation of like what happened to her. And it was just like the videos were playing, the music videos were playing. It was like every other thing that was on the news was just something to remind of her. And for some reason, I don't know, I always flash back to that. I just remember like a day of like all the celebrities that were close to her trying to give like remembrance. the videos just running constantly, like with MTV and all. They used to do those like constant music videos and everything, which you could like get up and watch. But yeah, I just remember it's just like a week of sadness, just like weeks of sadness, because everybody was just like, how could this happen? What was going on with the plane? Like it was just a constant. So I think it took a while. That's why today when it hit me, and you guys, by the way, check out Black Girl Nerds, such a cool article about her today as well, to check that out. But yeah, I totally, like, there's so much going on in the world that I hate. It almost escaped me. Like Jamie bringing it up was perfect, because it's just like you forget. But yeah, that moment when it happened, it was just extreme sadness. And just thinking about her, like, she was 22 when she passed away, like what she would be now. She was getting into films and everything. So
yeah, so I mean,
missed.
Yeah, I mean, as far as for me, I do remember. I mean, I'm much older than you, so I remember where I was when she passed. I actually was out with a friend, and we went to a nightclub, and it was actually the morning after, and I woke up and I actually heard it on the radio, and I remember just crying.
Yeah.
And it was so sad. And then I had another friend who actually was at like another nightclub at the same area. And then he had told me that they actually announced it at the club, which that's just so tacky.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really sad time. But the article that you can see on Black Girl Nerds, if you guys do want to check it out, is in relation to the movie Queen of the Damned, under our Cult Classics series. So check that out, because that's a movie that I'm ashamed to say I've never seen. I've never seen Queen.
I haven't. I've seen Romeo Must Die like way too many times that I should admit, but I have not seen Queen of the. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, and I'm like, Cassandra Feltus wrote it, and I'm like, I've never seen this movie, and I need to make that change immediately. So,
I'm here.
That is how I will. Yeah, I will. It's apparently on Roku, so I'll check that out as soon as possible. But anyway, just wanted to acknowledge Aaliyah, who is an icon, and she will always forever be remembered for her music. Her music lives on forever. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week with a show filled with hot topics, and we'll see you then.
Yeah. Bye. Everybody stay safe.
Bye, guys.